Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Today, we're going to talk about the past weekend, probably the biggest recruiting weekend in recent memory, honestly. I mean, just an absolutely huge weekend, and almost kind of strange that it happens in June, but that's the way of the world now. So, we're going to talk about that weekend a lot, who was there and what we think of them. We'll do all that on Locked On Bama here in just a second.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
I am doing really well. Anxious to read Joseph Hastings' stories on On3 about the weekend visits. I know that's what we're going to talk about here. Is just one of the great recruiting weekends of the year for Alabama. I doubt very seriously there might be other weekends, Luke, where there might be more kids, but there won't be more high quality kids. I think there were something like 4 or 5 stars in town this weekend.
Yeah, there was a great picture. I think it was Richard Young, Arch Manning, Anthony Hill, and Kaden Proctor all together. I mean, that's
all 5 stars.
Yeah, that's what one uses the thumbnail picture for this video. So why don't you talk about Kaden Proctor just for a second and see what do you think our chances are here?
I think if Kaden Proctor doesn't commit to Iowa, doesn't sign with Iowa, that Alabama's probably got the best chance. And I guess there aren't any points for coming in second place. And we don't know that that's going to happen for sure. I mean, any number of things could happen. But I just think Kaden Proctor, if he played any other position, Iowa has one advantage positionally over Alabama, and that's the offensive line. And by that, I just mean Iowa's head coach is an offensive line guy. Iowa famously puts out tons of linemen in the NFL. They just had another one drafted in the first round. Iowa probably has more first round offensive linemen than anyone not named or named Wisconsin or Alabama. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they're able to do up front. And I think Kaden Proctor is very likely going to stick with his home state school. His best pal has already committed there. So, but here's the deal. I mean, anything could happen. Kirk Ferentz could retire. Anything could happen to Iowa season. It's nice that you're just sitting there. It's kind of like it's exactly like what happened in that Miss America pageant when the naked pictures of Vanessa Williams came out, and whoever was in second place there took the crown. It's like that's a good position to be in. So if naked pictures of Iowa come out or something like that, Alabama will be there waiting to swoop up Kaden Proctor.
If naked pictures of Kirk Ferentz surface, then first of all, I'm going to need to wash my eyes out with Clorox. But
I said Iowa, not Kirk Ferentz, but okay.
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. You've got a little crush on Kirk Ferentz. It's okay.
Hey, Field of Dreams.
Hey, so does
That's
Iowa.
my field of dreams.
So does Iowa, because they keep giving him boatloads of money to lose about 4 games a year.
I think it's Iowa, but it's good that I do think I like Alabama's position. But I'll be surprised if it's not Iowa. If it's not Iowa, it's Alabama.
All right. Well, I mean, look, this visit couldn't have hurt. I can't wait to talk about it a little more in depth. You just talked to your buddy Joseph Hastings, who'll be putting out report after report on On3 very shortly. So that'll be something that'll be coming up. A couple of other things. I want to thank everybody for making us your first listen. I want to thank BetOnline for being the sponsor for this podcast. I'm going to talk about BetOnline here in just a second. Jimmy, one other thing that we're doing that has gotten some good response. I've seen some good response to this. These quick hitters we're putting out.
Oh, yeah.
You're putting out just little videos about maybe some of the more obscure. Obscure is a wrong word when you're being recruited by Alabama. Nobody recruited by Nick Saban is obscure. But you're putting out these quick hitter videos for guys who may not be, Richard Young, may not be Arch Manning, may not be Kaden Proctor, Anthony Hill, whatever. And I think these are going well, and I think people like to see them. So we're going to keep doing that. We just tried a couple to see how it went, And so far, everybody's liked him, so we're going to keep doing that. But right
Yeah,
now,
I think the next one I'm going to do is Brayson Hubbard, who's just a fascinating offer that we made at the end of last week. And I'm eager to jump into the tape and really break it down. All the tape will be of him playing quarterback, and we're recruiting him to play safety. But there are safety traits that you can see with a dual threat quarterback. So, yeah, I think my next one sometime this Monday or Tuesday, Brayson Hubbard from
cool enough. Look forward
Ocean
to
Springs.
that.
Yep.
Want to thank Bet Online. That's your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's NBA championship matchup, the NHL hockey conference finals and championship, Major League Baseball, and, of course, all the fighting MMA and UFC and NFL and college football futures. Bet Online is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet Online, that's where the game starts. All right, Jimmy, let's talk about – let's just keep this pod to these 4 or 5 stars we talked about. We brought up Richard Young before.
Yep.
We have felt like he is on the verge of a commitment. Do you think there's – as of Sunday at 2:07 Central Time, he is not committed, at least not publicly.
Not publicly. And I'm not saying that he's a private commitment. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's expected to sign with Alabama.
Okay. So, and this visit may have sealed the deal.
I think so. If it wasn't sealed before he got here, I'm sure I would be surprised to learn that anything he found over the weekend made him sour on Alabama. That would be sort of surprising. And what I was going to say about, to me, what's significant about Richard Young's visit, Luke, is that so much of this weekend was about Arch, like, wow, this is the big Arch thing. I mean, we've been recruiting this kid, and I think all of us recruiting fans have been aware of Arch for even 4 years now, if not longer. And of course, but Richard Young, this was his official visit weekend, and he's far more likely to go to Alabama. As a matter of fact, in that famous 5-star picture that will front this podcast, of the 4, Richard Young is by far the most likely to end up at Alabama. I believe he will. And I've said this numerous times, but I'll say it again because I realize how big this is when I say it. Alabama signed a lot of 5-star running backs under Saban: Najee Harris, TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry, Damian Harris, others. Richard Young is as good of a prospect as any of those guys. I'm not saying he's better. I'm not saying he's better than Derrick Henry or Trent Richardson. I'm not saying he's better as a prospect, but what I'm saying is he belongs in the same sentence. He belongs in the same group. He's every bit as good as those guys. So we'll see how his career pans out, but I'm super excited about Richard Young.
And then, just quickly on Anthony Hill Jr., this is a guy that number 1 linebacker in the country. A lot of people love him. He feels like a foregone conclusion to Texas A&M, doesn't he?
Yeah, Texas A&M or Texas. This is what I'm interested in, and you guys can say this is all about NIL. I'm not saying that, though I'm not denying it. I'm not saying it. But what I'm interested in seeing, Luke, when this cycle is over, how many big-time in-state players in Texas turned down A&M and Texas? Who turned away A&M and Texas to go out of state? I think over the past 20 years, that list has been really lengthy. And this year, I think it's going to be really short. I think A&M and Texas are going to snap up every in-state kid they want. And you haven't been able to say that in a long time. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen with Anthony Hill Jr., who is an unbelievable prospect, who's the type of prospect that Alabama's been getting, for a while. I mean, in terms of, if this was 3 years ago, I would like Alabama's shot alongside A&M and Texas and others. But no, I don't know that we're going to pry kids out of Texas that A&M and the Longhorns want, like we have in previous years. And you can point to NIL, and you probably wouldn't be wrong.
Jimmy, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we got to talk about him because he was on campus. We'll talk about Arch Manning. All right, Arch was on campus. We already have a commitment from Eli Holstein. I think Alabama's looking for another quarterback. Of course, they'd love to get Arch Manning. We've talked about it on this podcast before, but it's worth rehashing. I mean, first of all, the idea of Arch Manning and Eli Holstein in the same class is I mean, it's whatever bigger than a pipe dream is. Like
Well, it seems
Mario World pipe dream.
yeah, I can see how someone look at it. This is the way I look at it because I can so easily see Saban's speech about this, and it makes sense. I mean, most fans that listen to this don't have the same mindset as a lot of these 5-star, ultra athletic, ultra competitors. And look, the thing is, I mean, if you just think about it logically, is Arch not going to go to Alabama? But how come no one says, well, Arch isn't going to go to Alabama? They have Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. No one says that. No, even though we know, Luke, me and you know, and I think everybody listening to the show knows, there's every reason in the world to be sky high on both of those kids. I don't care which one of the two you like the most. There's every reason for us to be sky high on Milroe and Simpson. And no one says Arch isn't going to Alabama because of those two. People say Arch isn't going to Alabama because of Eli Holstein. Why? There's even less evidence that Holstein is as good as Milroe and Simpson. And I say that because Milroe and Simpson have looked fantastic on the field against college players, which Holstein never has done in his life. So I think the argument you make is, well, obviously, if you sign with Alabama, there's going to be competition. Who cares how old it is? I mean, who cares that it's another freshman? If you don't care that it's a sophomore or a redshirt or a freshman that's redshirting like Ty Simpson most likely, why would you care that there's another true freshman? So I don't think Arch cares. The question is, does Holstein care? Maybe, because Arch, let's say this, and I mean as a compliment, sucks all the oxygen out of the room. You know what I mean? I mean, when Arch walks in the room, it's Arch's room, right? That might cause Holstein to look elsewhere, maybe. But I think Holstein's a competitor just like Arch. What Holstein ought to say is, I'll beat him out. Of course I'll beat him out. I'm not even worried about it.
You know, that sucks the air out of the room thing. That's real too, because it's sort of like if Clark Lee, the head coach at Vandy, and Nick Saban were at the SEC media days, and it was Nick Saban first, then Clark Lee. I mean, there'd be so many questions for Saban. Then afterwards, everybody would be like, whew, I'm glad that's over. I got all these notes. Who's up next? He's the head coach of where now? All right. So, Jimmy, that's going to do it for this episode. We will be back with more Locked On Bama soon. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.
I think